there and not necessary. So now like I said, I know you have things to try to be doing while we're talking, but why I wanted you to call, um, especially after reviewing our last conversation and me dropping my thought midway here and there and pushing through what we're up to. So there's four. It would be easier, and I've had a hard time with others following, but I know you will see. Four equal but separate, uh, fully contained self. Uh, uh, they're neither one of them has anything to do with the other, yet all four of them must be at equal levels and operating uh, in sync in order for what anything ever that's ever existed, been thought or imagined to occur. So what I'm getting at is, like, even with religions or governments or uh, scientific equations, whatever, the most that's ever run is two, and usually it's a primary, alpha and a beta. I'm the chosen one, and you are my loyal assistant, right? So that's usually the the most common form of trying to achieve some kind of control over reality, whether it's personal reality all the way up through cosmic reality. That at most one of these stories is running, and it usually acknowledges one other story. And I'm not saying that there's four concrete stories. I'm just saying there are four total, and no one's ever gotten past two. Three has been worked on. Four is unheard of. So why I'm putting it, and I'm trying to whittle it back to a point. So bear with me. So the the usual one topic, we'll call it, of four topics has, like I said, a chosen alpha that it's all about the leader, etc. Generally, the secondary equation isn't another topic. It's a like I said, the assistant, the right hand man. And there's multiple examples through history and religion, blah 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 blah. The point being is usually when somebody's trying to pull a cosmic lever and achieve, control over reality or a creation within reality that is a result of their topic and being the chosen of their topic, because they're running it with a right hand man, it fails before it even can affect the collective. These are cults, shit like that. Because it was your second in command and you as the chosen that were having any of the others that were a part of your topic in line and seeing the same reality that you were communicating and demonstrating. You follow? Not you specifically, just in general. So, like, I could use any, like I said, a cult would be the best example, where you have the chosen one in the cult who with the cooperation of a second in command, usually is able to demonstrate to the flock so that everyone is seeing the same thing that the chosen is is communicating, therefore making them the chosen, because there's control over the reality, at least for the group. You with me? Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, now I can hear you.
Okay.
All right. So then you get into, like I said, usually in that situation, they are at least acknowledge. All right. So like I said, there's got to be 4 equal topics running at equal levels, producing at the same time, yet completely separate from each other. So say using one topic, that being the cult, they have to, usually they at least acknowledge a second topic, like the government or the church they're breaking away from and trying to show the right way to use the religion. See what I'm saying? But it's not within their topic, and it's usually the antithesis to them. So instead of running 2 separate yet equal topics where each chosen of each topic work together to make something new, usually the chosen of one topic has made an enemy of the other topic in general. So we'll stick with cult and the government. Therefore, the president and the FBI, they're out to get us. They don't want us to do our thing. And then it ends in some kind of demonstrable apocalypse, right? So that's a representation of 2 topics that are running but not touching each other, yet have to exist. Like the cult can't exist outside of the reality of a government or society that supposedly doesn't understand it and is trying to put it down. Because if that other topic didn't exist, then everything would be within the cult, right? So at most, there's always 2 topics running. And now this is where we get into, on larger scales, countries where you have government and religion, separation of church and state, that kind of stuff. Or even in communist, there's always 2 classes. You're either of the government or you're of the peasantry. It's always when 2 topics are running and equally recognize each other. So like we would use an example as the Pope and the Vatican through Rome, not Italy, but the Pope and the Vatican making a deal with Caesar in Rome so that the government and the church would work together to then control all populations, either politically or religiously, right? So that's 2 topics accepting each other as equals, 2 separate equations, yet the Pope is the highest authority within one topic and Caesar is the highest authority within the other topic, one being religion and the other one being Rome, right? So they can coexist and they're in cahoots with each other, but once again it's an abusive situation and it's just 2 topics running. So when you get into people who have evolved to the point of those who were at the level of, like when you first met Steve Prelwitz, what you were bringing to the table, what he was bringing to the table separately, and other people like Dawn down in New York, right there, that they have this inclination of this 3rd topic, knowing that, yes, we understand that, how the world's set up right now, and it's, these you can either take over a religion and form your own cult as long as you stay under the governmental radar, or you can try to form your own small little gang, and as long as you stay under the law's radar, you're okay. Either way, there are ways to, because you have this inclination of this 3rd topic that exists, that, there's ways around anything and everything, because we know that both both topics, even if accepted at their highest levels, still bullshit, still not some. It's not right. So you have this inclination of of another way beyond the two ways already set out of an atheistic or a theistic lifestyle, like a combination of the two, and becoming this third separate thing. Yet, and that's where a trinity comes in, and the acknowledgement of that is because now this third topic, none of anyone who's had this inclination, anyone who's ever gone, tried to be any kind of seer, witch, warlock, any kind of cosmic figure, alien, whatever. The point being is, it's never run at the full level as the other two topics of politics and religion, because if it did, then there'd be the physical. In other words, you'd elevate to that dimensional level. Like the promise is always, it's in the future. So like if you did your thing, you'd be able to ascend to your fifth dimensional self, right? But practicing that act, even if you did it in the now, that ascension, even if comes immediately, elevates you to a dimensional level of existence that's in the future of the third dimensional present, right? You can't be in the 5D ascended and still be here in the 3D, right?
You can't be ascended and be here in the 3D?
So if you were to kill the
Not
Gimp...
right now you can't, no.
Right. If you were to kill the Gimp... But I mean, if you were to actually do what was offered to you to do by the Dime and the temptation of Neb, you would immediately ascend to your higher self and be in control of everything, right?
Yes.
But you wouldn't be here.
Right.
So...
Yes, you're right, yeah.
Right. So even anyone who has an inclination of that third topic, it doesn't have... It's not running at the same level as the two other topics of using politics and religion as the two other topics are. That there's no equivalent in that third topic of the Pope and the President, unless you did for you the whole Gimp thing to arise to the level of the Dime and the Dime would be the equal to a Pope or President, but the Dime only exists in a fifth dimensional level, whereas those two other topic alphas exist in the third dimensional level. They're in charge of everything here, right? So you killing the Gimp doesn't let you be in charge of everybody here and have you be here too, like being elected president or being anointed pope, as far as majority collectives go, even though I know there's more Muslims and Buddhists than there are Christians, blah, 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 blah. It's not the point. It's just a topic level thing. You follow? So that third inclination is what we completed when we did Easter Monday. That ceremony produced within a third dimensional reality that third topic President Pope level entity of you as Our Lady of the Metatron. You follow? But anybody else in this existence can never ascend to anything higher than Pope or President or Jesus Christ, the Son of Our Lady of Metatron. Does that follow?
Yeah.
Right? So why I'm putting it that way specifically is because by what we did, like what we need to assist the collective with here in the present is getting each one of them to a pope or president level and having them just what I'm getting at, those we can only turn people on through the first two topics. The third topic, which has never been completed but always tried by any subgroup, including religions and politics, to really control the levers of reality. Okay, that's star level. And what I'm trying, so even though we have succeeded in elevating that third topic to a reality within this third dimension so that God exists with Pope and President, right? That's what we did back on Easter Monday. And then that allowed us to start the fourth topic, and we are completing that fourth topic now, which will allow the higher self to be able to be here also, so that all four topics are present within the 3D at the same level. So that's what you and I are up to, and when we're talking about what we need to be doing and what current affairs are up to, as well as the affect of your personal experiences, it's in completing the fourth topic equation to its full level. Okay? Then, when we're trying to speak about anyone at the Steve Prelwitz level, whether they're helping or interfering with what we're trying to do with humanity on the first and second topic, that is where our fight with the Z-Martians, that's where the cosmic story of me talking in a sense of fairy tales, you know, of cosmic plot. So that whole third topic is what I would call Steve Prelwitz's saga. You know, the stupid book we had to read. You follow? Because I was involved with all of that. So my summation of Trinity is through Steve Prelwitz, buttoning it all down so that everything, so cosmically, your equation runs parallel, but you're in that fourth topic, not the third topic. So when explaining cosmic plot with you, it's specific to your personal experience, and everything else is Steve Prelwitz's book running parallel to your personal experiences. You follow me? So that's that third topic level that nobody else has ever completed, and everybody else is trying to fight for the beginning stages of. And the only way to get even in that line is to go through either the mechanism to president or the mechanism to pope. You follow? So you and I are running on these four topics. The first topic would be getting beyond that cult level existence within the political societal mainstream. Then that second top level is getting beyond the political constraints or legal constraints to be able to exist. Kind of what you just had to go through with your 401, all of that stuff to be recognized on a level of business entity, not just personal entity. And then you begin that third level thing, and that's where people who are pretending to be you, the dime trying to have influence, Neb from the future, present, and past, the Gimp from the past and present, and Ned from the future and past, and the Filipino from the past and the now current to present, to future. And so when we're trying to express how to help the collective of humanity become one consciousness as a species so that we're in harmony, that's having the first two topics running properly and at full capacity, neither which is ever being done. Like I said, usually one's overpowering the other, and they're never trying to function together. They're just believing in their own hype and competing with each other, and whoever has a success capitalizes on it whenever they can at the expense of the other. So it's having to remedy those two topics first. Like I said, I'll just go with politics and religion, and that's where all the 99.9% is. That's all that's what they need to become a whole collective humanity. Then individual ascension process, which is something that you innately are the responsible one for, just because you're the environmental specialist. You're the one,
Well, this is all my fault.
Okay. It's all your fault, only in the sense of, why did you have to make us be alive during this part of the transition? Because this is the part that hurts the most. So just to be clear on what I mean, so this is how the four topics comes down, so we get it. So remember I said in the fifth dimension, trying to come down to the third dimension is like looking at a picture on a page in a book, right? And trying to climb, not looking at the page so you're climbing directly into the picture, having to straighten out the page so that you're looking, the part that gives you the paper cut, trying to climb into that so that you're in the page, so that you can be in the picture on the page. So we're giving ourselves a giant paper cut, trying to climb into the third dimension from the fifth dimension improperly. You follow? So that's the level of that's what's trying to be sold to other people as religion in the analog world, where you can climb out, you can be a picture on a page in a book about history that's being read by somebody, so that you exist in the future, because the person reading the book is reading the book in the future, and you want to make sure you're in the book so that you existed in history. And not only do you want to be mentioned in writing in the book, you want to be in an illustration in the book. Because what's being sold to you here as religion is that you're going to be able to step out of that picture when the person in the future is on that page when reading that book. So that's the reverse of trying to come back from the fifth dimension in the third dimension. So using the formula of religion, that's what it's saying, that in the future somebody's going to be looking at our history in one flash as a picture, and that you are so important, you're in that picture, and that you're so important and powerful, you're going to be able to step out of that picture when that person's looking at that time, and then exist with them then. See how bullshit that is? Just like me trying to tell you that I can shrink you down from the fifth dimension and make you alive in the third dimension, like the dime is telling you can happen if you kill the GIMP, is like telling you that you can climb into a page that has a picture on it and insert yourself into the photo that you're not even in yet, and giving yourself the massive paper cut trying to do it. Right? So that's those who have mastered the first two topics and have learned how to be Pope and President, Jesus Christ, be able to I am a leader and have people who truly believe in me because I am in the reality that we exist in. They see proof that I am in control of that reality, right? So that's the further. So then that third level we had to complete, because we don't want to print a book that is not true record of history, because that third level topic equation allows you all of a sudden to realize that there's a printing press and this is just one book of many. So now all of a sudden it needs to be an important book if people are going to read it, if there's a million books that you can read, right? Or you got to make this book the book that everyone collectively is aware of, so they want to find it and read it, right? Example, the Bible. Example, New York Times, Oprah Winfrey pick of the week. Same exact thing, right? But the whole point is, if you realize there's a printing press, now all of a sudden you don't even care about the book anymore, trying to get in a book. You don't care about who reads a book. All of a sudden you can print books. And if you're printing books, only books you print are going to be able to be read. So who gives a fuck now? So you follow all of a sudden, once you're at a fifth dimensional level, so once you get there, if you did what the dime says by releasing the GIMP and using that energy and become in charge of the book of the third dimension, you also have access to a printing press. So you don't give a shit about the third dimension anyway. You're going to stop printing books, because every third dimension is going to have to read one of your books if you're printing books now, because you're in charge of the printing press. So that's the next. So that's when we figured out the third equation, the Our Lady of the Metatron, bringing God here to equal that of Pope and President. It was bullshit, because we realized there was a printing press and that the book really wasn't a big deal. So then, at that level, if there's printing press, then we start to get into the fourth, and that's, like I said, where you and I are actually creating everything. And it's not because we're printing books. It's because I know how to make a printing press, and you are the one who now is printing books. So it's having control over the machinery and being having the ability to build the machinery and then having the knowledge of how to operate the machinery to produce something. So that's that fourth equation. That's the one that we've also completed, but that is where the fifth dimensional self is reality in real life, living in a sixth dimensional universe, functioning in a lifespan way more expansive than ours. Because even right now, though we have stars for all, which was never been done before, right? Before it was just this star, one star. If you did what you did, you'd have control. If Steve did what he did, he'd have control as Odin. If I did what I did, I'd have control as Satan's predecessor. You know what I'm saying? But that's one star, and that's the blood same over and over again. So every star or a star for all is the same as everyone has their own book. So the time frame of the book is still the same, and everyone who lived in that time frame has a book about themselves and what they did when they lived in that time frame. That's giving everybody their own star. But it's still all within the same time frame. And that would be the galaxy level, where within the galaxy, even though we give everybody their own star, it's still only the lifespan that they have within the lifespan of the galaxy. If the galaxy dies, your star dies with it. It doesn't live in the galaxy. Even though we know stars die before this galaxy dies, that's not the point. The point is the one consciousness of the printing press is the galaxy. You know, that's still you, what we did on that Easter Monday. But now your consciousness being aware, awake, and part of others in the universe, this is a future where we're fighting Z-Martians and Neb, and the Dime has been killed. And where I'm going with that is the explanation of that story is spit it out, Mike. That's, like I said, just you and I, but it's you and I talking about what's going on in 28,000 and change that has made our reality what it is now. And that conversation, like Steve, not that Steve's not a part, what I'm trying to get at is, it's never been talked before. And it is still part of the conversation of that third topic where all of the fifth dimensional characters exist, where Steve thinks he made it, where Dawn has made it, where, you know, they all think that should they win or ascend, this is where they end up, right? Planet 99 or their version. But it's all in the fifth dimension. And that's what you as yourself right now, fighting the Dime and the Gimp, and Steve with me, is all expressing that third topic in three-dimensional reality, but that's only affects the players who are trying to be in control. It's not helping the collective. it's us explaining the first and second topics to the collective that actually connects them or bypasses everyone else's bullshit and gets them to where they can ascend to be that third level God. And damn it, so I know you know all of this. So when I talk to you, I get confused because it's all the same thing to me, but there are corrections that I have been unclear to you, with you about out loud, so that when I'm talking about something, it might not be in its corrected form. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is us fixing the collective by making these videos when I'm speaking with you. It seems like we're going to be awful slanderous of all government and all religion, right? All science and all academia. So there's no statement that you can make that is not true. It's more of like we want to wonder at times, not why. We'll present it as why is this happening, but it's not a question of I don't know why. It's a question of tag, you say out loud this time why this is happening. You follow? And so, like, specifically Vegas, the shooter now, there's any number of backstory that can appear, because all of a sudden he had no electronic footprint at all, but now there may be some electronic footprint, right? He's a middle-aged white male that you would expect to be a Trump supporter, killing, being a white supremacist, but he was shooting up a country festival where you would expect Republicans. But now remember, the guy who shot up the baseball field was also a white male that age, but not in that financial structure, right? But now this guy all of a sudden seems like he could have been living some kind of fantasy lifestyle, recently, because he's on new meds and blah, 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 blah. So where I want to go with that is the video footprint on YouTube that we last left when I was talking to you about what was going on, and hadn't made the connection that you didn't have any of the backstory. Like, I thought you and Steve were the same backstory. You were just the female counterpart to him, not knowing that you weren't involved in all of that. And where I was mentioning some of my background and what my service to and for you and us and the plot level is, it almost seems like this guy, it desperately wanted to be me, as far as if having the ability to act out. And where we all like to laugh and joke that we all could be millionaire or billionaires right now had we not reneged on our birthrights, right? We didn't buy into the bullshit, but because of that, we're not beholden to anyone, but there's no payoff that we've received yet. And that's why our lives haven't even begun yet, because our lives were to begin in the future, where that payout is on our own terms. So had I wanted my ultimate fantasy to happen, that would have been it, with my Asperger's kicking in altogether. I mean, he thought he had an escape plan. There is a female that was not his Filipino girlfriend that was accompanying him while he was gambling the days before he did this while staying at the hotel. Additionally, so like, pretend I'm Steve right now, right? And just like the broad that we were after, who is pretending to be you right now in real reality, and that's the Dime's way of getting at you in the 3D, right? Prelwitz is me, pretending to be me, like she's pretending to be you, while whatever's fucking with me, even though I say I'm separate for him. But for analogy sake, Emma! The Dark Mother. See, this always happens when whenever we're really getting into the depths of the cosmic, there always has to be a fucking interference, and it really bothers me because I waste all that time trying to set up the proper aesthetics. So what I'm getting at is with Prelwitz, because the Patriots are playing tonight. I'm supposed to be down there with my nephew. I'm still repainting the bathroom because now we're painting more. You know how it is. So, and right now in the background, what's supposed to be playing while I'm recording this is the Planet 99 music, the radio station that is AI, and Fox News in the background, and my Wi-Fi signal keeps being interrupted, of course. So, back to what I'm saying about Prelwitz. So now, if you put me in Prelwitz's position, for how far we've made it beyond others, if immediate transference were to occur. So, in other words, I got the fantasy. The woman at the table with me would have been you, right? You're in cahoots with me with this, and you're whispering in my ear and basically setting me up to go on this massacre with you up in this room, right? And we have an escape plan, and you had me send my Filipino girlfriend, who is your Filipino beat-up broad, right? The breakdancer, right? Because in that situation, you would have an underling female servicing me. You know what I'm saying? If you were being the ultimate dominatrix bitch and you were setting me up to do something horrible and take the fall for it, you would think that I was your counterpart in control. You would have, like I said, some other female with you that would be sexually doing deviant things to me this whole time to psych me up for it. You know, just like a jihadist, right? How they give it. So, and then you have me, so then I send her back to the Philippines to get her out of the way. I send her money, supposedly for a house and for her family. She thinks I'm going to break up with her, and that's all she's worried about. I'm setting it up so that the feds follow that trail, because I'm thinking that after I go on my shooting spree, I'm going to set off an explosion as a diversion, and you and I are going to bail together with millions of dollars in cash that I have in a suitcase and disappear, you know, having done the largest mass murder ever, you know, and then you, being the Dime, your whole plan is to use me as a patsy, so you set me up with all of this, and then you kill me in the room and make your escape, because I shoot the tanks and they never explode like they're supposed to. While I'm trying to do that, you shoot me in the head. you leave with whatever our escape plan was, and by the time the authorities blow a hole in the wall 73 minutes after the shooting stops, I'm already dead. So you get away because that was your calling. You follow? And my calling was thinking that through Steve I met you, and you and I were gonna, really show this, because HRC didn't win the presidency, and we would be, the whole point is the fastest way that whoever's the Pope and the President right now could, because remember, we reconnect in communication. That means a flood of the technology and a flood of the information gets to all of those lost people who are trying to be in control of equation number 3, because they've ascended to their Pope level or their President level, right? And then they apply it in reality as fast as they can translate it, and it manifests as, you're the mysterious girl who disappears, I'm the shooter who's killed, the Philip, blah 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 blah. But that's, that's not who, we weren't even there. We did the Las Vegas thing last week, right? They're a whole week behind. So on the Steve level, and what I'm trying to get at is, that would be the fantasy of the next step for how to stick it to, if we were HRC people, the equivalent of you and I on HRC side, I would have been that guy, and you would be involved in this unknown capacity that they're now just hinting on. You follow? But to prove that we really are Trump and Putin, they don't have a backstory for this guy. They've not been able to produce anything. The left wants to say, well, it was a white guy. How come you can't call him a white terrorist just because he's not? Well, because he didn't say Allahu Akbar while he was doing it, so we don't know. That's why we can't call him a white terrorist. He wasn't Timothy McVeigh, who left a fucking note, or whatever, or that got caught later on. The point is, there's nothing there. There's no backstory whatsoever for them to follow, and it will be what we determine it is, and that's mainly the communication. But I wanted you to see how in the there's 4 topic levels, and in the first topic level, the second topic level, those that are in charge, those that are, the GIMP and the dime trying to say we put Trump in power, trying to rearrange history, and the Marine generals who approached Trump and asked him to run for president, they really are in charge, but under Trump, they're not trying to run a military coup. They're trying to restore the Constitution because they're Marine generals. That's why the Marines were such a big thing in this. And right now, if you notice all the news, they say that it's Mattis, Kelly, Secretary Mattis, Chief of Staff Kelly. Those are general. That was General Kelly, General Mattis. Those are the Marines that got moved into these. Now the liberals are saying that they're the adults in the room that are, those are the 3 adults in the room that are keeping, the sanity to get whatever. The point is, we just force them to accept Marine generals as the adults in the room that they're more comfortable with because they hate Trump that much. Whereas 6 months ago, or 8 months ago now, it was those same generals that were trying to overthrow the government. It was the liberal line. So where I'm going with that is, we're using Trump to start conversations so this Second Amendment bump stock automatic weapon is part of the conversation that has now been started. And the reason why that is because we need to understand that the NRA, the Second Amendment, because now they're saying, I'm pretty sure that the First Amendment is pretty important because it came first. This guy's shooting people, or people getting shot because they're saying things that people don't like, so they have guns that they can shoot them with. And the point being is they made the Second Amendment to protect the First Amendment. And why this is coming to fruition is because the NRA is a civil rights group. They're the first civil rights group. If it wasn't for the NRA and the Second Amendment, we would have never been able to have the Emancipation Proclamation and the Civil War. If there wasn't a Second Amendment, then blacks would have never been able to, and whites would have never been able to have guns. Only the armies of the governments would have been able to have guns, and they would have thrown down any slave or white and black revolt against slavery if there wasn't a Second Amendment. So that's kind of part of the story that gets overlooked. And the ability, you're not supposed to own a weapon to protect yourself and your property. The Second Amendment is specifically for you to own a weapon so you can overthrow your government, period. It's specifically for revolutionary overthrow of the government by the private citizen, because the Constitution, along with the Declaration of Independence, allows for us to be a sovereign nation and an independent people with our own sovereignty. So you as your own person are not property. Whereas up until the Declaration of Independence, every person in existence was property. You were either a serf of a king or a queen or a slave of somebody. There's no such thing as a free person. Even the noble class, they were owned by the king. You see what I'm saying? There was no such thing as a free person, ever.
Right.
And that's why the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution with the Bill of Rights are the three most important things, because the Declaration of Independence is a watered down Articles of Confederation, and those were written, and those freed all slaves back in 1775, 74. But the southern states who had a little problem with that, so that's why the Declaration of Independence is watered down a little bit. But that's why we're constitutional supremacists, because any other government that exists anywhere in the world right now still does not allow a person not to be considered property, and doesn't allow for private property, no matter where you go. Even other constitutional democracies do not allow for private ownership or for a citizen to be a private entity. I mean, I don't have to pay taxes as long as I don't work and own property. I'm still allowed to live in the United States and not have to pay a nickel in taxes as long as I don't try to own something or work for anybody. That's the only time you have to pay taxes. You can't live in another country and not pay taxes or not be considered property. Your citizenship in that country is taxed in other countries that are democracies. Socialism, communism, all of that. This is the only country you can live in and not have to pay anybody a fucking thing, as long as you don't try to do anything. Don't try to say I own this or I live here.
Right.
So I know that's off the base, but it's because what you as Columbia represent is free, the true freedom of the human, we are trying to eliminate all subjugation in any form. And what the problem is, the first two topics who are in control and who are running everything horizontally because it's a feeding frenzy are going fractal, so microaggressions now. That's how bad it is, right? Whereas if we solve that third equation, which was always supposed to be solved, so we went vertical instead of micro, we would just be eliminating those behaviors that take advantage of another human being. So we have to be able to explain using the current flashpoints and then taking one flashpoint and then explaining it where that applies in your personal life, as far as everything is a reflection of some part of something we're trying to accomplish, right? There's always a metaphor or an analogy in a flashpoint that, and I mean your cosmic life, your personal life and your cosmic life are the same thing. You follow? So first I want to make it make sense that way, where, like I explained this Vegas thing as to how if I were functioning at a Steve level and you were functioning at a Dime level, that's what would have happened when we turned our mechanism, when we jumped back here from the fifth dimension to start filling in everybody as to what's going on by talking to each other again. And that's how reality manifested that relationship, was through this mass execution by someone that I could explain very easily a story behind how that could have been me and your influence upon me, as well as really how you and I are puppeting that situation, and also how you could have puppeted that situation, as well as how they made this situation happen for this reason, but we took it over and are turning it into this instead. You follow?
Yeah.
So and why I'm still being generic like that is because now that we're discussing and agreeing upon like these flashpoints that we see in the current to get to communicate and record, okay, so this is what's going on. We're like the Trump suit, like I can identify who's making the move, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then once you know who's making that move for that flashpoint, you come up with a counter of, well, this is what should have, too bad this didn't happen, this, whatever. But what I'm getting at is, by me being able to identify the who's making that move, then you can present the counter that heals that move, or what the next step is, right? So like this move with Vegas, if it's to highlight, I'm telling you that the Z Martians and Neb with the Dime and HRC made this thing happen in Vegas, right? And the reason is because it's a personal affront to me as a constitutionalist in the Second Amendment, because that's what they're attacking because of this. And it's a personal affront to you because there's a mass shooting that happened in Vegas right after you left there, and it was specifically communicated to you that because of you it occurred, right? Because
it will be blamed on me 100%.
Right, because you continue to hold out. See what's happening while you're not doing anything.
Yep.
Right. So
you could stop it all and make it all better.
right, and for me to have to accept those losses and put you in a position where it's just one more thing that the collective is, is panicked about, in fear of. No matter how much understanding and love and joy we're trying to establish on a grassroots level, because of the media, because of the way everyone is absorbing their information, all they're getting is constant hysteria. And we are the fourth topic way of running the printing press, or writing the book, or being in the book, or reading the book. That fourth way, that is the fifth dimensional existence, technopathic link sync, nano tardigrade bot, psi, talking about 28,000 and 16 to 25 category, so that it can be supposition, and the immediacy in the now and its manifestation. Our point of attack is using, so it's almost, because of the first two frickin' things, like, it would have been so much easier to become Pope or President, and then, like I said, or God, and do it, that because we didn't, it's like anything past 2012, or excuse me, anything past 2016 on the that's why what the GIMP said is so shitty, because they want to take credit for Trump, because they know in the future Trump is the footprint that leads to the our future. Yet in the
they had told me before that HRC was going to be president, and that she was the answer, and blah blah blah.
Right, but what I'm getting at is, in the present, anything Trump does, they go hysterical over. You see the double entendre? Like, we can't speak for. Like, if you just try to be a mouthpiece, well, hey, how can you even defend that? How can you even try to defend that? That's what it is in the now. But in the future, it's like, oh, we knew all along that that's why he was doing this. And then they use the information that how we fix the hysteria now by talking about why this is really being talked about, by re-explaining to people truth. Like I said, nobody remembers or even knows their ethics anymore. So what I'm getting back to is, with Trump, the way that we fixed all the hysteria right now, from 2016 all the way through 2024, you're hearing from your cosmic influences out of their mouths as if they were the ones that did it through Trump. See what I'm saying? Like, they're saying, well, in other words, where everything is perfect, where we are, it was because of Trump, but we knew that. But where you are, every time you try to do something with Trump, we're flipping out on you about it. And then you fix it for us. But then when in the future, where everything's golden, we make it seem like we're the ones who fixed it ourselves, and we're telling you as if you weren't even there, or you were part of the problem. Does that make sense? So, and that's but mainly like I said, why I wanted the call and when I was talking about the future and when I really woke up the dime instead of you, this is all part of that, where solving the third equation, I thought that the fourth equation we would be beginning in that 28,000 wake-up period moving forward, because we would reach the fifth dimension within that time frame of waking up, right? So to me that was the fourth equation's beginning and end. And it technically is, but that had to be completed too. Not so like where Steve had me fooled was thinking that the completion of the third equation was what we needed to do to make everything work, when all that was what needed to be done to wake up and to fix the portals, like Ned fixed the portals, okay? And so the second part of that fool was thinking that by starting the fourth we were where we needed to be, when that was the dime's lie to us. Like Steve's lie to us was what I just said of me thinking that, and then the dime's lie to us was me thinking that you and I awake there were plotting the course to the fifth dimension because we fixed everything that got from here to there so that we could move forward. And we did, but it was the dime who wanted the information, so the dime could be the one plotting the course from there forward. And then the dime was still trying to convince you here to get rid of the GIMP as fast as possible to make her real instead of, Our Lady of the Metatron real, because then it wouldn't matter what we do here anymore. But because we figured that out, now she's shit out of luck altogether, as we discussed on our last phone call. And it's just discussing, like, now it's just the hissy fit, of the Borg Queen. It's like I said, when I said the death throes of HRC, we still have to wait 6 to 8 months after the swearing in and all of that. Well, we're in the death throes now of the dime. That's the best way to explain it. And that's what... All right, go ahead.
Yeah, no, this is what you and Larry are talking about is the epitome of everything that she, attempted to bully me with. You turn away and, you'll experience the most gruesome, painful death, and this will be an eternity of blah, blah, blah. But then it's always like, there's always it's even in that one conversation that I had with her through him, it's like it flip-flops back and forth between I'm good, I'm bad, I'm good, I'm bad. It was just, the one thing that I want to do, though, is, speaking of the Hydra, remember we used that example, and I know that I got a lock on HRC / the Hydra / the dime through Abramovich, and I've continued that monthly ceremony of offering my blood in the garden, continuing to feed this mechanism, and I do believe that there is a way, especially because we talked about the back door, of bouncing, because Jay goes out at 2 a.m. To absorb moonlight. And I'm sure that if there's any night he would be doing it, it would be tonight.
Right, the harvest moon. Yeah.
So I think that there is a way, every time, like when the 9/11 thing happened, the appearance that was given to me was that, oh my God, she's so weak. Like when the Maria and Harvey and the other one happened just now,
Yep.
Irma. No, was it Irma?
No, it was Irma.
Yeah, it was like, you know, we had to fight it so hard to slow it down, and you know, so it's Ned versus her. You know, he's the one who's trying to drum it up, and she's the one who's trying to stop it, and she needs this to happen. And none of that makes sense. Like if when humans die, it makes you less energized and hits you like you're losing a fight in the battle. Then, you know, killing one human who supposedly has all this power, you know, it's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. So, you know, and she thinks I'm stupid. Like, that's really where I am right now. You know, and I think it's actually probably a good thing that I don't have any vulnerable family with me, around me in the house at this time.
Right.
Because, you know, it's fucking war now. And, yeah, I want to get to that part where we're talking about the details of that, because as far as I'm concerned, at this point, she's alerted. She is 100% alerted to the fact that, you know, because I gave her everything. I gave her a link to the YouTube video, my no terms video. She knows 100% where I stand on blood sacrifice. And, you know, it's been a continuing conversation of, oh, are you sure that's what you want to do? You don't want to do this? You know, and she has to kowtow, but it's time to hit hard. Yeah.
I agree, and I think until, like, how do I put it? The duality was never, not as strong. What I'm trying to say is I wasn't as aware of the dime as I am now, and using the parallel to Steve Prelwitz, the reason why I want to continue, because like you said, the duality of it, like Steve found every time it's supposed to be a point of transition, if it's not a reality-wide transition, there's always, it's not that there's a reason or explanation, there's always the next one. Like, you know, Steve is, you know, into the Scientologist and what's going, what I'm getting at is that the male and female apexes of the three-dimensional reality that the smartest human is at culminates in the dime and in Steve, and they on their own and with all the tools that have been provided to them with, you know, the connections to endless energies, are unable to transition this dimensional reality, propel it into another at all. You know what I'm saying? And but yet there's always the whenever a time expires that it was to transition, the time we're waiting for hasn't come yet and is on the way still, right?
Yes.
And that's how they survive. But it doesn't make sense, like you're saying, and that's where calling them out on it, and like you said, unless you give in to the intent, and because the highest level of human intelligence at this moment, male and female, is Steve and the dime, it's beyond their, you know, their ape comprehension that you wouldn't want, you know what I'm saying? How could you not want to take advantage of that offer. And how we know that offer isn't for them or for anyone or isn't the right time, because I know Steve would pull a switch if he could pull a switch. You know what I'm saying? Just like, you know, the dot.
He would execute the GIMP if he could, if he had been given the green light that I have.
Right.
Been given, yeah.
Right, and any female other than you haven't been given the green light at your your level of, not your level of understanding, at your level of power understanding, couldn't fathom not doing it also, is what I'm trying to get at.
You know, as we're talking, I keep remembering little bits, and I've interjected them in the last conversation, but I have a new piece of information that the Divine gave me, which was that, you know, right before Harvey, right before Irma, right before the other one, that, you know, Neb had done some, you know, he did like a bunch of ritual executions, and that's where he got the power from to do what he did with those storms, and probably also this whole Vegas thing as well. So, you know, there's like this continuing toggling back and forth of like, you know, they're in the same game,
right.
Same chessboard.
So how I would explain, and see, in the end, as long as we endure and persevere, the more. So remember, we were going after human trafficking and pedophilia right off the bat, and then in the Trump administration, but then like every single day there'd be a leak about, like, just throwing whatever they can at Trump for no matter what he says or does to prolong or eliminate the possibility of highlighting that point, like of ending, that portion of the human struggle, the game. The whole blood game is based on human trafficking, and the whole NRG game is based on the sexuality. And the whole reason why we prefer Islamic law is because you can have sex with 12-year-old kids, right? It's not against the law there. So it's not really pedophilia if it's part of your belief system. So that's neither here nor there. What I'm getting...
Which is how I was raised.
Right. So, and then in our future conversation recordings, that's when we're going to get to the specifics of why it's Columbia specifically with the Constitution, because we're trying to... the original Columbia was the best of humanity, and regardless of where it went off the tracks, it's still the jump-off point for any betterment of humankind, right? So, and you know, like I said, we're 2 steps ahead of everybody else evolutionarily in consciousness. They're in body 2 steps evolutionary further along than they are mentally or psychologically, and that's what we're trying to wake them up to. And where I was going with all these negative manifestations, so I said we had to at least get through the first 6 months and then things would calm down a bit. Now it's the first year. Then the point is, the more they prolong and drag this out of things being able to calm down and correct and grow, the less deviance they'll have. Like they're throwing all of their deviance at Trump all at once because they need distractions from ending the human trafficking, pedophilia, blood energy cycle that all that the first two topics run on. You know, President and Pope run on blood and sexual energy. You know, because that's what everything was to start, and then we move up the levels of ways to energize ourselves that aren't of blood sacrifice or generating that sexual energy or extra energy. So where I'm going is, like I said, the more they throw at us, the more negative stuff that keeps happening, that brings up these conversations of, you know, is this still good for everybody or not good for everybody? There's going to be no more distractions that they'll have, and the distractions that they're using are all behaviors that we want to end anyway, right? So by them trying to stay in power, and the only way they can stay in power is to outlast Trump before Trump can start implementing, you know, the corrective processes, they have to try to keep distractions so that Trump can't enact his agenda. But the distractions they have to use are all abhorrent behavioral distractions, ones that aren't sticking to Trump. You know, Trump's not the cause of this shooting. Trump's not the cause of the hurricanes. Trump, you know what I'm saying? And where they're at, they think they can pin because they know that the government ran and controlled the mechanisms for these things, but they don't know how to operate. You know, it's just push the button, get a pellet. But if the pellet dropping machine breaks, the printing press breaks. If you don't know how to set the letters, you know, that kind of stuff. So we are allowing them, because they think that by being the government, that they know that the mechanisms that the government uses to do its deeds, they know how to control. That's where they make the mistake. They just know how to push the buttons. So if they can maintain being the government longer than Trump can, then after he's gone, they're still the only ones pushing the buttons. You follow? But they're running, not only every time they push a button, we correct what that button was doing. So they can't push it again. So they have to push another button. And what we're doing is making them run out of buttons before we run out of Trump in power. But we have to pace it out, because too much at once might crash the whole system, right? And, you know, if the whole thing shuts down, there's no sense in me fixing it to turn it on again, because it starts over from scratch. Whereas if it overheats a little, you know, if it goes out of parameter while it's running, we can fix it on the fly type scenario. So it's always a balance of making them push buttons to expose themselves, correcting it so the button can't be pushed again and it doesn't stick to Trump, making them liars, and having him last more than there are buttons that they can push, thereby showing that they aren't the government, that they were just stupid, bad people that somehow we left in power for over 30 years before we woke up to it. You follow? Of course. But that's why but as far as how we interpret it, you're getting your impressions via Neb, the GIMP, Jay, the Dime, however they come in, because that tells us how different parts of the psyche of the collective are reacting to what's going on. Because anytime more than 49% of the collective decide to have the same psyche, then it becomes the reality for all of the collective. And that's where we have to be careful that whenever we go to 50%, we're willing to go to 100. And that's what we're figuring out right now. And this is the first, this is the example we're dealt with. And like I said, by setting up the places, and 3 weeks ago we were going to be having a nuclear war with North Korea this week, but we're not.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Yeah,
here's
definitely.
another thing.
Yep.
Here's another thing. So, one of the moments of clarity that I had in this last Las Vegas event, before the Mandalay Bay shit went down, I felt that Jay was working as a communication mechanism for the Dive, and that there was potential that how do I say this? That I've never actually had a conversation with her. That maybe because my communication mechanism has been with an enemy of Neb, that maybe the Neb and the GIMP energy has completely covered up, and that's the reason that I keep getting this dichotomy in the communication where it's like, pedophilia is evil, oh, go molest your daughter. You know what I mean? Like, that was what it was, do this perversion here, but it's your fault. And, let me, you just, all of it's so much double talk. And there was a part of me that felt like that, I don't even know how to say this exactly, that potentially I've never actually had a conversation with the Dime because it's always been filtered through the GIMP/Neb, and that the only moments where I've had clarity in the conversation, where the conversation is actually going the right way, like for instance, HRC is evil, that was like moments where, the hypnotized GIMP did actually deliver a truism to me instead of a bunch of bullshit and lies. So there's a part of me that feels like, the concept of the Dime, that just as much as there is a dark and evil side to it, there's also an ascended and corrected gray aspect that is who I'm supposed to be in the future, and that potentially these are breadcrumbs / telegraph or pigeon delivered messages that get polluted in the process of the delivery, and that obviously there is a dark side, because I've had many people who have had dreams of me as this darkness, as this dark evil, but I feel like there may be, that there is an aspect to this whole concept of the Dime, which is the corrected me in the future, like you were saying that you in 28,000 was communicating not with who I am or attempting to become now, shifting the future, but that you were speaking to the me as if I continued on the path that Neb and the dark side of the Dime and the GIMP and everybody is leading me toward. Because, so, it's almost as if, again, there's a duality that's playing out, but I'm not sure that I've actually ever had a true conversation with the Dime as she should be, as I should be, except for a few times where I've had, breakthroughs. I've had them a few times, but it can never be with a polluted channel. And, using the example of, the girl, Cheerio, the first time that I bound her and disciplined her, the first side that came through, I would say, felt correct, felt like the bright side, the gray. It felt like the merged duality. It felt like, the right side. And then when she went to sleep, and, was walking in a trance and came back to bed with my sharpest kitchen knife, obviously, she flipped over to the dark side. So it's a matter of like getting rid of these fucking human CB radios and being able to get to the point of having the conversation, which maybe won't happen until, you know, whatever battle it is that we're heading towards is complete. But using the term kill the dime, there's a part of me that doesn't like it because I feel like there's a level of, you know, domination, of subjugation, of overcoming and winning, and not retraining, but like we were saying about the destruction of this with the whole concept of the Hydra, and, you know, being the parasite inside of her body that doesn't allow for any bloodshed, neb or dime, to actually serve the purpose that they want, but it gets recycled back to the Grateful Dead, so that, you know, the heavenly host continues to rise, and, you know, all of that, their attempts are foiled, like you said. They push a button and we change the purpose of the button. So they never are actually getting what they want anymore. But I do feel like even the name, the dime, I want it to be good. I want it to be right. I want it to be what I am becoming. You know what I mean?
Yes. So, quick question. Had you bound the GIMP before the girl or...
Yes.
Okay.
Way before.
Yeah, I figured.
All
right. Yep.
Probably 3 years.
Right. So Neb and the dime, as you know, are two separate things, like you just said, right?
Yes.
And Neb is connected to the GIMP, and the dime is any mini-me of you that ever tries to exist. You with me so far?
Yes.
So why the dime has a good connotation and is you, and as long as you don't do what is expected of the dime in this reality, and as long as no other can become that which we are calling the dime in this reality, which is a negative connotation at the moment, right?
Yes, yes.
Then what I'm getting at was when you first said how you never thought you were getting a truism except for a few times, and with Jay and Neb, and where I want to go with that is because the dime and Jay and the Neb and the GIMP have nothing to do with each other whatsoever, because as you know, the dime is a form of the future self of that female mother superior, for lack of better words, right? All right. So our whole plan is to have you be the one that achieves that position, because if you were to rise to the level of the dime, then nothing that I know of the dime in the present is anything that I know of the dime that would be you as the dime of the future. You follow?
Yeah.
So all of these mini-me, all of these other ones out there that are trying to be you, that is the dime trying to come through and influence you. Okay?
Yeah.
So when you are doing what you're doing with Jay as the GIMP, it's generally that Neb, and always has been, and he is the enemy of the female essence. Whether it's a good dime or a bad dime doesn't matter. Neb is the male that wants to be dominant over the female.
Yes.
right? So
Yep.
because when you're at certain times when you bound Jay, and the first time you bound the Filipino, because it's a dominatrix role, you're connecting to that dark dime side and are able to reflect because you embody the dime, so that no other mini me's at that time are the dime. You have become in that moment the dime.
I felt hurt using my eyes at times. Yeah.
Right. And that's just because you went to the dominatrix bondage role, and so that would allow you to a transference onto Jay, that part of you that isn't the dime, that is the good fifth dimensional future dime. So, in other words, you were projecting your good self onto Jay to then talk to you, because in those moments yourself was embodied by the dime. So when you said a couple of times you thought you might have got truisms, those would be the times when you were basically just transferring the good dime's consciousness onto Jay and speaking it back to you, and Neb couldn't do anything about it because you being the dime is more powerful than the gimp being Neb.
Yes.
So that's how I would explain it, and why you see in the future, if by you ascending to the ultimate role, then that is the dime. So good or bad, it depends on the consciousness. So like what you're saying, I am concurring with, and trying to give you the formula or equation that makes that so. But up until, that's why we are trying to succeed while alive here, because then I never have to worry about some other here pretending to be you.
Right.
Right?
So what do you think the significance of the 7 are with her and 2 are weak?
I still think that goes back to your 7 and 9 comments of you, and like as you say, to the dime, the 10th would be ascertaining that Pope or President level. So should you do what you did so that you could assume all and become the 10th, that would just be becoming the God on the third equational, on that third topic level,
Yeah.
but as the negative dime instead of the Our Lady of Metatron.
Yeah, because she did tell me also, or he or they, or who the fuck knows, but they did say that I'm the 7th. So that means that, there is, they're saying that I am the dime at this point, and that there's 2 more elements that need to be merged in order to reach that 10th level.
Okay, all right. So that on our, I want to talk more about on our next, because Katet really isn't the 4, it's 4 topics, and within each of those 4 topics there's a trinity. And when you speak of you are the 7th and there are 2 more but they're weak, in other words that they will come into their strengths as they mature or progress or grow, depending on whatever, or evolve. There are ways that how I would more take that is in your progression, that there are 2 more milestones,
Yeah.
to reach. And
Well, and that's why from the Dark Dime's perspective, it's execute J, execute me.
Right.
Did you? Yeah. So those are the two more stages.
And there are the mechanism and the meaning of those two stages have a natural occurrence that we can mimic instead of this unnatural occurrence that is created. Do you follow? What I'm trying to get at is the killing J and killing you is for a process and for a product of that process. Soon as we can learn what process is fulfilled by killing J and then the product of that process, then we can find its mimic in right and
I asked him to work with me to understand this because he said he wanted to be released, and I said, well, then you need to figure out how to help me do this. I made that very clear. Very clear.
Right.
So, and he was himself when I said that to him. So I've laid all the cards on the table.
And that's the other thing also where, you know, you have made the declaration and the challenge to any who believe that they are more qualified. I don't want to use the word more qualified, and it's not like you throw in the gauntlet. I'm using all the wrong terminologies, but what I'm getting at is the time is short, and if there is any other that thinks they're the one, for lack of a better term, I don't know. We are making sure that we broadcast the availability of the occurrences. In other words, what I'm trying to say is we're making sure that everybody hears the casting call. So if you don't show up and try to say that was supposed to be my role, you can't say you didn't see the advertisement.
Yep.
So, all right.
Yep.
Perfect. And even though I didn't get into any cosmic plot level about who's running around doing what behind our backs and naming specific states or politicians or countries or world leaders, the fact that we've gotten to this progression of knowing that the dime is already lost. The only way the dime wins is if you wake up as the dime in 28,000 and change, because you're not the dime to me. You follow? So there's no point in time in your past or present or future where I'm see. All right, but we don't want to. You are the dime. You do wake up as the.
But I am the corrective. It's the gray witch. It's the gray.
Right.
It's not what bright or dark. It's controlling both aspects. See, that's what I feel like right now is that, she tries to exert this dominance through fear, but that doesn't work on me anymore. It did when I was 20 years old.
Right, but that's her reaction to Neb, though. Because that's a challenge to superior. The male negative energy is trying to dominate me, and only my negative female energy is strong enough to check it. And that's why we have to get rid of Neb altogether. So that darkness, like I said, I need you to be casting the light within and showing your back, your darkness without. And I know you get, so once again, it's more of, as you said, with Jay, it has we need to do the ritualistic destruction of Neb the way it is expected, but not the way
in her mind, in the Dime's mind.
Well, no, I think Neb needs to be destroyed in Neb's mind the way Neb would be destroyed, but not in the Dime's mind.
Yeah. Well, the way that I've always imagined it is that I would, weaken Jay, which forces Neb to appear, and then trap Neb inside of the GIMP and do the execution, and that's when Neb is destroyed because he's trapped in his physical body, and that physical end becomes the first viral code in his software that just spreads very quickly like a virus and turns him all over to the polarity, and then she absorbs it and he's poof gone. That's in her mind.
Right.
Well, that's right. That happens.
And that's the cosmic magic exploit. That's what I need to then boil it down to a way without slicing someone's throat scenario. And
exactly. Right. And I told Jay that I'm not going to do that to him.
Right. And no,
it's his responsibility to assist me with this. And
so
I'm going to get that video up online so you can see it.
Right. But I'm starting to think that what you say is true as far as coaxing Neb into the embodiment of Jay, but trapping Neb in Jay, and having to have Neb live out the rest of his years in Jay's happily ever after married life until his natural death. And
that's what Jay wants, is to be released. He doesn't want to be activated. He doesn't want to be part of this. But the Dime knows that there is an event in the future. And when we communicated, it was something to the effect of a very homosexual ritual was going to take place to draw out. And, when I did a binding and grounded Jay into reality so that he completely forgot about me, completely forgot about all of this, I have to think about how I did that exactly, but I definitely did an unwinding. And so I think that we're on a good track here. I like this.
Right, because if I'm thinking of when I was saying, when I woke you of the simulation, it was the Dime and not you, meaning that dark, what I'm getting at is, if there's a way for this to happen, and in doing so, that negative energy that is the Dime transitions to a positive energy from that point forward. So by somehow binding Jay and getting it to the point to where Neb has fully embodied in him, and somehow using the Dime in that moment to turn both that black Neb and black Dime into white Jay and white Monique.
Here's the missing piece. They, all of them, have always told me to never, ever, ever say anything to Jen Jen, who is the sweet little wife. And she, I think, is somehow the key.
Oh, yeah.
To communicate with her and bind Jay in a submissive sense to her, where she is, operating, because that's what they're all afraid of. None of them. Jay, Neb, and the Dime, all of them. Keep Jen out. Well, I don't want her to know anything about this.
That's where the black Dime energy goes. She becomes the binder of Jay now, thereby the Dime and binder of Neb.
That's the reason that I married them together.
Now you just have to ritualistically transfer the power over to her as the
Yep. I think I'm going to have to, I blocked her on Facebook because I don't want Jay able to see anything about me through her Facebook, which I'm sure he has access to. I have her phone number, and she was asking me to come visit, but I think that the way I might do it is communicate with her and just say, I need to see you in person. And, she's someone that's been very earthbound lately. But she has she has understanding. And Jay has always dominated her and manipulated her and kept her in the dark, playing all his stupid little online games. She knows about it and she's put up with it because she loves him. But I may need to make a trip up there and talk to her in person. Not stay at her house, not let him know.
Right.
Anyway, just so you know, my daughter's going to be arriving any minute.
Yeah, I'm sure. I thought she was already there, and you were actually just being polite because it's been a bit. So
she may be here. I don't know.
Well, let me.
She's coming to the room.
I want you to deal with that. I just consider this also, though, like in the 50 Shades of Grey movie sense, since you were friends with Jay before her, and you were the marriage friend. What I'm getting at is, there are some things. What I'm trying to, not that you don't have an approach, but an approach would be, well, does she know that you talk to him at all, or she doesn't think you guys talk at all?
First of all, I don't have an approach yet. I don't. So I'm open to input.
Well, because what I'm trying to say is basically...
No, he does not know that we've met in Vegas or that we communicated at all. Jay acted like he had no clue what was happening.
Right.
As far as I know, she's left in the dark, but they always tell me, don't tell her anything.
Right. But would she be dumbfounded to know that since you last talked to her, you and Jay talked?
No, because he's always playing tricks and games.
All right. So just what you would approach it with is you heard from a little bit, and he was just talking about you and how it'd be awesome if she just would spice things up a little bit. I love her a lot. Just a way to say that you want to show...
She wants to own him and dominate him.
Right.
She wants to.
So
none of them want to. Yep.
Right, and if she doesn't have a problem with it, you'd be more that the first time that because you used to be a dominatrix and he knew that, that's why it was mentioned in Too Bad you didn't know how to do what I know how to do. So
We've had these conversations many times.
And so why don't I just show you, and in that you're going to be transferring that binding to her.
Yeah.
And then you've approved of a way, like, that is good dime negative energy usage. She is only becoming dominant over him to keep him in check because he is holding Neb hostage in the third dimension. So, you see, so then from that point forward, there's no negative dime influence on you anymore at all because you've turned it over to her.
Yep, and this is exactly what they have feared the most.
Right.
And a long time ago, in my journals, I was like, no more lies with Jen. I have to be honest with her. This is not okay. I don't like it. In the spirit of sisterhood, blah, blah, blah. So, as you were talking about trapping both Neb's dime in him, I saw like a box of mirrors, where they just are an echo inside of him, and they're activated, but they're bound by a shield, which is Jen.
And
she's the shield.
Right, and I remember in us thinking about what to do with that ball of energy, that the GIMP that you have hidden. And that's what you would be tapping into to empower her, because that'll be as much as she needs to be able to contain Neb from that point forward, because it's Neb energy.
Yeah.
Just Neb energy that you've sterilized.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a win-win. And as I would do with what I'm getting at is if and when you go to perform or take care of this situation, you know, if you wanted me lurking outside or in the neighborhood, that I would fly out and do whatever's necessary. So
100%. I'm not going to be doing anything anytime soon.
right.
Jen and I had talked about me coming up in November, earlier this year, so I'll call her or text her and, you know, arrange a phone call, and, you know, it may be that I fly out there and we have time, or not fly up, I may end up driving, I don't know exactly, we'll see what happens. I feel like we've covered a lot and got to the point where it's time to think again, but I will definitely, having you there, you know, if this whole idea of him submitting to a man, and I'm not saying in a sexual way, but just even having to kneel down, if that's going to draw out Neb, and then, oh my God, Jen's there and Mo, fuck.
Right.
They're fucked.
Right.
They will be fucked.
And I understand, and you know I have enough trust for you that I will just take your direction, and I don't give a shit whatever. Outside, inside, if anyone's gonna get this throat slit, I'll be doing it because you're gonna keep your hands,
right.
You know. So whatever needs to happen.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm gonna thank you for talking, and then good luck with what you're about to go deal with, and if you need to talk about it, I'm here.
Okay.
All right. I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
Hey, I'll send you an attack plan. Bye.
Okay.